Now part of the Darkcast Network. Welcome to Indie Podcasts with a dark side. A 16-year-old girl vanishes from her home in the middle of the night. There was no trace as to what could have happened. Did she run away, or did something more sinister happen? Well, this is Love and Murder, so let's get into the case of Skylar Neese right now. Welcome, lambs. Welcome to Love and Murder, your weekly true crime podcast telling you of relationships that turn to murder. My name is Kai, and in today's episode, we're talking about a case where, when I first heard it, it taught me to watch my child's friends closely. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this episode and all my episodes are sponsored by my lambs in Patreon, patreon.com/Love and Murder. Also, at the end of the episode, if y'all hadn't noticed, I didn't come out with an episode on Monday, and I will let y'all know what happened. If you want to hear about what's going on in my life, you can listen at the end of the episode. I figured since I didn't post on Monday, I'm going to do your full episode mixed with your midweek mini today, so it's a full episode day. But enough with the chit chat. Let's grab your butts, grab your BJ's apple juice, murderandlove.com/BJ's for $30 off your first year's membership, and let's get into some Love and Murder. Born on February 10th, 1996 to Mary and Dave Neese, only child Skylar Neese was known to be a very happy and very fun person. She had a loving home. She had no problem between her and her parents, and she was born in Morgantown, West Virginia. When she was small, Skylar and her parents moved to the small town of Star City, West Virginia, where she grew up. There she went to school, was very active in the neighborhood, and built long-lasting friendships. Skylar was described as intelligent. Quote, she was reading and doing math before she was supposed to. She went to University High School, where she was an honor student and wanted to become a criminal defense attorney. She was also described as always wanting to fight for the underdog and make sure the right thing was done. So, this sounds like somebody we need in criminal defense. One of her close friends was Sheila Eddy. Sheila was born on September 28th, 1995 in Blackville, West Virginia, to parents Tara Clenenden and Greg Eddy. Sheila didn't come from the same home life as Skylar did, but like Skylar, she was an only child. She and Skylar quickly became best friends when they were around 8, and their friendship only grew stronger when Sheila moved closer to Skylar's home. Quote, she was like part of our family. She really was. Now that they lived close, they were able to go to the same high school. That's why they were able to meet the next friend in their tight trio, Rachel Shoaf. Rachel was born on June 10th, 1996 in Morgantown to Patricia and Rusty Shoaf. Rachel was described as being someone who always wanted to do good and make everyone around her happy. Not saying this is her, but it sounds like a people pleaser, which is not a good thing. I used to be a people pleaser when I was little. I grew out of that in high school because of all the things that come with it. She came from a devout Catholic family, and she enjoyed being in school plays and actually had an ambition to be a Broadway star. So when she graduated high school, that's kind of what she was looking forward to. As strict and religious as Rachel's background was, she loved hanging around Sheila because Sheila was the complete opposite of what she was taught to be like. And I think she kind of wanted to be more like Sheila, carefree and just doing whatever she wanted. On July 5th, 2012, when Skylar was 16, after working her shift at Wendy's, she went back home, said hi to her parents, went up to her room. You know how teenagers do. Hi, yeah, how was school? Good. How was work? Good. Anything happened today? No. Go upstairs to their room. So she went upstairs to her room. I'm not saying literally that's what happened, but you know how teenagers are. So she went up to her room. She's chilling in her room. And then at around 12:30 a.m., she snuck out her bedroom window and then got into a car and left. The next day, her father comes up to her room. It's time for work. She had to work that day. And they noticed that she wasn't waking up. You're going to be late. Knock, knock, knock. No answer. Goes in. He sees her uniform from the day before. Bed's made. She's not there. So they immediately called 911. Police did an initial investigation and pulled CCTV footage from the apartment security and saw Skylar voluntarily getting into a car. Well, this led them to believe that Skylar ran away from home, so they decided not to put out an Amber Alert. However, Dave and Mary contested this, saying that you could clearly tell that Skylar was planning on coming back home. She left her cell phone charger. What teenager do you know is about to run away from home and leave their cell phone charger or anything dealing with their cell phone? Are you serious? So they were like, she left her cell phone charger and she left her bedroom window open. So clearly she had snuck out and she was coming back. Police still disagreed and stated that they had to wait the minimum 48 hours before putting an alert. So call us back if she doesn't come back in 48 hours. Well, 48 hours later, she still wasn't home and an Amber Alert was issued. After that happened, the Star City Police Department received a tip that Skylar was last seen in North Carolina, but when they went and investigated this lead, they saw that that was completely false. As the investigation progressed, authorities identified the sedan as belonging to Sheila Eddy. When police went to speak to Sheila, she said, yeah, we did pick Skylar up. We went on a joyride, just chilled out, and then we dropped her off an hour later. Officer Jessica Colbank later said, quote, their stories were verbatim the same. No one's story is exactly the same unless it's rehearsed. Everything in my gut was telling me Sheila's acting wrong. Rachel is scared to death. On September 10th, 2012, the FBI joined the search, and both the FBI and the PD interviewed Skylar's friends from school. According to one of their classmates, Daniel Havatar, Skylar and Sheila argued a lot, and after Rachel joined the group, their friendship became even worse. Sheila had even started hanging out more with Rachel than with Skylar. Quote, one time sophomore year, me and Rachel were at practice for Pride and Prejudice, and Rachel had her phone up to her ear and was laughing. She was like, listen to this. Rachel had been listening to a fight between Skylar and Sheila. Wow, and she was just sitting there laughing about it. If that's my friend group, I don't want to hear my friends fight, let alone think that's funny and I'm just on the phone laughing about it. That's me. In the meantime, while police are doing their investigation, Dave and Mary are, doing an investigation on their own, asking anyone for information about their child. I can't imagine the anguish they went through. I can't just imagine if you have children, think about your child going missing. Or if you don't have children, but you have like nieces and nephews, think about your niece or nephew missing and multiply that by about 1,000. Because that's how it feels when it's your child. So I can't even imagine. And that's their only child. Not to say it's different if you had more children and one is missing, you're just like, oh, no, you're still going to feel that. I'm just saying it's your only child. I can't imagine. So with their investigation, there's not much they could do. They posted flyers and just talked to people and did interviews, stuff like that. There's really not much you could do as a civilian. Sheila would visit her best friend's parents often, offering condolences, saying, I miss Skylar, helping in the search, offering a shoulder to cry on. While all this is going on, Rachel and Sheila were still pretty active on social media because, your friend goes missing. You can't shut down your social media. Sheila tweeted a lot about how she missed Skylar and would also post messages about how hard this was on her. Some of her tweets were actually written directly to Skylar, like saying stuff like, Skylar, come home. Skylar, just come back. Investigators were watching all of Skylar's friends and their activities. This behavior from Sheila was starting to become suspicious because not only was Sheila posting stuff like this, but she was posting like funny stuff, like, still talking about, life is hard. School was hard. I hate math. It was just like too lighthearted for what was going on. In between that, she would pepper it with like, I wish Skylar would come back. And then, she would post pictures with Rachel making funny faces or, whatever teenagers normally do on social media. So police thought that was suspicious of them. However, Dave defended them and told the cops to leave them alone. Again, He felt like Sheila was like one of his children because her and Skylar were so close. So stop messing with Sheila. Everybody grieves in whatever way they grieve, and this is how she's dealing with it. Well, cops heard that, but it's not like they left them alone because they're kind of like just trying to figure out what happened. So they did confiscate the girls' phones, and that's when they realized holes in the girls' stories on the night that Skylar disappeared. So they're kind of trying to just figure out what's happening. And everything took a weird turn on the night of December 28th, 2018, when a phone call to 911 came from Rachel's house. Her mother spoke to the 911 operator in a panicked voice saying, quote, "I have an issue with a 16-year-old daughter of mine. I can't control her anymore. She's hitting us. She's screaming. She's running through the neighborhood." Medical units were dispatched to the house, and Rachel was brought to the hospital for treatment and observation. But on January 3rd, 2013, about a week after Rachel had her mental breakdown and 6 months into the investigation, there was a huge break in the case. Rachel came forward and confessed to the murder. Now, I just want to say this, side note. It's only fair to say that that sentence about Rachel going to the hospital, when I said she was brought into the hospital for treatment and observation, that actually wasn't verified. I didn't find any information about that. So I didn't know what happened between the time that they called 911, December 28th, and she confessed January 3rd. So I just filled in the blank. This is what made more sense to me, because I couldn't find what happened at all. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Because like I told you, if I make something up, I always let you know. So it's literally just between December 28th and January 3rd. I don't know what happened. So I said that she went to the hospital for treatment and observation. She probably didn't. I don't know. Now let's get back to the case. So on January 3rd, she's confessing, and she told investigators that during science class, her and Sheila plotted to stab Skylar and bury her 30 miles or 48 kilometers away in the Pennsylvania woods. They'd planned to pick up Skylar from the house, and they wanted to do it at night and then drive to a remote area. What they were going to tell her was that they were going to go out, let's go driving, let's go smoke some Mary J, and just chill out. Once there, Sheila and Rachel would count to 3 and then stab Skylar to death. Rachel also told police that they'd been planning this murder for months. They'd also prepared a, quote, serial killer kit that had towels, bleach, a shovel, and a change of clothes in it, and they also packed knives for the attack. Dude, all this going down, and you couldn't just be like, we don't want to be friends anymore? Like, literally, the worst, other than murder, thing you could have done was just ghost her. Like, literally. Why did you have to kill her? Like, that doesn't make sense. And all this time, y'all are planning this and buying beach towels and bleach and change of clothes and getting knives. All this time, nobody in the group could say, look, we could just not talk to her anymore. We could just, if we're too scared to have a confrontation, just don't talk to her anymore. Block her on everything. Like, so many other options. Anyway, they then took Skylar that night. They went over the Pennsylvania border, and they basically pulled off their plan exactly as they'd been planning it. They stabbed Skylar over 50 times. And when investigators asked why they did it, she said they, quote, didn't like her anymore, and, quote, didn't want to be friends with her anymore. So like I said, just don't be friends with her anymore. Like, how many people do you plan to kill if you don't want to be friends with them anymore? Like, you just can't say, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Is it going to be hard? Is she going to take it hard? Yeah. But just like anybody else, you're going to bounce back. It's going to turn you into a different person because now this core memory was formed, and it is going to shape the way you deal with other people. But guess the frick what? She would still be alive. You wouldn't be in jail. You would be in Juilliard or Broadway or wherever the frick you wanted to go. Options, people. Options. She also told police that she would lead them to the body. And as she promised, she led them right to Skylar's body. Unfortunately, at the time, there had been a snowstorm, so they couldn't dig up the area. It was just hard ice. They couldn't do anything. So they did have to wait. Then on January 16th, once the snow melted, police found Skylar's remains. not buried, but covered in leaves and branches. The frickin' laziness. When they asked her why didn't she at least bury the girl, Skylar said, well, the ground was too hard and, it was too hard to try and dig it, so we just covered her in some branches and leaves. Ugh, y'all didn't see that, but I rolled my eyes. Anyways. So with this discovery, this confirmed everything that Rachel had told police, and she was arrested. And now that they had concrete evidence, so was Sheila. Another piece of the puzzle was the girl's Twitter, namely Sheila's Twitter. Investigators were able to gather evidence based on how she sent out her tweets. For instance, in one tweet she wrote, quote, "We really did go on 3. Oh my God. Wow." This was in reference to them counting to 3 before attacking Skylar, if you didn't get that. On May 1st, 2013, during her arraignment, Rachel pled guilty to second-degree murder by, quote, "unlawfully, feloniously, willfully, maliciously, and intentionally causing the death of Skylar Neese by stabbing her and causing fatal injuries," end quote. Rachel had written out an apology letter and read it in court. In it, she said she was sorry for her actions and regretted everything that had happened. So this kind of goes back into what somebody else said, if people confess their crime, one of our lambs said that, you should get a lenient punishment. I mean, it did appear that clearly Rachel was sorry for what she did. She had a mental breakdown in freaking dealing with what she did. And, she did confess. She did lead them to the body and everything like that. So I think maybe she should have a slightly lenient punishment. And I guess they agreed because due to her confession and her cooperation, she was offered a plea deal and was only sentenced to 30 years in prison with the eligibility of parole after 10 years. So literally 30 years in prison, she would be possibly able to get out in 2023. Sheila, on the other hand, pled not guilty to all her charges. She said, "I didn't do shit. It was all Rachel. I wasn't even there. I don't even know what they're talking about. Wasn't it your car? It was my car, but Rachel stole it." She didn't say all that, but she did plead not guilty to all her charges. During her arraignment, she decided not to speak at all, but others did come forward to speak. Some students from their school testified that they'd overheard conversations between Rachel and Sheila about their murder plot. But they thought it was a joke, cause who walks around plotting a murder? So, especially against their best friend. So they thought it was a joke. They thought it was just a sick joke. So they didn't tell anybody. Now, since she'd pled not guilty, they were like, frick it, we're going to trial then. And a trial date was set for January 28th, 2014. However, because it was going to trial and they were going to bring forth additional charges against her, and from the Pennsylvania authorities because you crossed over state lines. So she had more charges and now she was facing life in prison. Sheila said, you know what? So slow down. Just wait a second. Okay. I am going to plead guilty, but only to first degree murder. So we don't have to go to trial. You don't have to bring up all these charges. Life is not going to be on the table, stuff like that. She actually didn't express remorse. It wasn't at all about, I'm so sorry for what I did. It was, oh shit, I'm facing life in prison. So she just pled guilty to first degree murder. She took a plea deal, and the plea deal was that Pennsylvania couldn't file extra charges on her. So with all of that, she still got life in prison, but with, quote, mercy. And she did end up being sentenced as an adult. Now, the with mercy part is in West Virginia law. If a juvenile is sentenced as an adult, they are offered a possibility of parole if they're given a life sentence. So that's the with mercy part. So she was given life with the possibility of parole after 15 years. Then on May 9th, 2023, guess whose parole is up? It is time for Rachel's parole. She again expressed remorse of her actions and what she did, which we do know she's remorseful. I believe she's remorseful. Her mental health told us that she's remorseful. So this is her parole hearing. She's expressing remorse again, and she gave a motive for the crime. She said that secretly her and Sheila had actually been together. They were in a romantic relationship, and this caused tension between the trio, namely between Skylar and Sheila. And that's what all happened. So again, it still goes back to just don't talk no more. Just say we're not friends anymore. The friend group is over. Like if you were with Sheila and Rachel, then just let it be Sheila and Rachel. Again, Skylar would have gotten over it, or this would have just been a bump in your friendship and y'all would have been friends again. Or either way, Skylar's still alive. You're not in prison. You didn't do anything stupid. You did something that a lot of people do, which is, you lose friends. Not every friendship is meant to last. But murder? Like, are you freaking stupid? Like, oh God. Anyways. And I'm not talking to Rachel here when I say this. I'm mainly talking to Sheila. Because if you remember, Rachel's personality is a people pleaser, which again, foreshadowing from the beginning, I said is not a good thing. If you are a people pleaser, the only person you need to learn to please is yourself. I don't mean be a narcissist, but don't let people walk all over you. Say no. Learn to say it's going to be hard. This is coming from a former people pleaser. It's going to be hard, but people are going to walk all over you, wipe their muddy boots on your face. People pleasing is not a good thing. As you can clearly see here, Rachel wanted to please Sheila, and she chose Sheila over Skylar because Sheila is the one that she was with. This is people pleasing. This is an extreme form of people pleasing. Cause I know there's people pleasers out there that somebody say, hey, you want to come murder somebody with me? That's going to be the first time in their life they're going to say no. No. Oh, that was easy. No. But anyways, this is like, this is an extreme form of people pleasing. She should have stood up for herself and said, I'm not doing this, because as you can clearly see, she wasn't okay with this. Anyways, she was denied parole and still is in prison. Rachel's family also came forward and issued a public apology through their lawyers towards Skylar's family as to what their daughter did, which again, they didn't have to do this because they didn't have anything to do with it, but that just shows like what kind of family they are, which then goes back into showing what kind of person Rachel is. Rachel really was like just strung along in this. And you can tell because her mind broke. She was not the person to do this. Her mind completely broke. And throughout all these years, she's been expressing remorse for what she did. And you can just see that comes from her family as well. On the other hand, Sheila's still like, I just pled guilty because, I didn't want more time on top of life. Like, I ain't do nothing. So Sheila's still in that mindset. Both of the girls still remain in custody at Laking Correctional Center. Well, now women, because they're about, 28, 29 now? And it's interesting to note that because of this case, West Virginia changed its Amber Alert laws. Now, if you remember, an Amber Alert was not issued to Skylar Neese because it didn't meet the 4 criteria that they had in place in West Virginia, which was, number 1, a child is believed to be abducted. So if they thought that she was kidnapped, they would have immediately sent out an Amber Alert, but they thought she ran away, remember? Number 2, the child is under 18. Skylar was under 18. Number 3, the child may be in danger of death or serious injury. Well, they just thought that she ran away because she voluntarily got into that car. So it's not under that. Number 4, there is sufficient information to indicate the Amber Alert would be helpful, which to me there was, but to them, she just jumped in a car and went away. So that made it, if none of these criteria were met, you had to wait the 48 hours. Well, after this whole incident went through, a West Virginia state legislator from the district where the Neese family was, they introduced a bill called the Skylar's Law to modify the Amber Alert plan in West Virginia. The modification is to issue immediate public announcement when any child is reported missing and in danger, regardless of if the child is believed to have been kidnapped or not. And on March 27th, 2013, wow, they did that fast. And on March 27th, 2013, the West Virginia House of Delegates approved Skylar's law with a 98-0 vote. So basically it was unanimous. And that is the case of Skylar Neese. What did you think about that case? This thing makes you look at your children's friends sideways like, Mom, can I go to a sleepover? Absolutely not. They can come here though. That's insane. So the question that I have with y'all, did y'all see the same thing that I saw, that Rachel was really remorseful? That's the question. That's the poll question I'm going to put out. Do you think Rachel was really remorseful? Yes or no? I kind of want to ask a second question. Yeah, I'm going to ask a second question. Do you think she should have been let out on parole in 2023? Being that she was really remorseful, she helped them, do you think her parole should have been denied? So that answer to the second question, leave in the comments for me. So the poll is, do you think she was really remorseful? Yes or no? Second question, do you think she should have been released on her parole in 2023? Let me know that answer in the comments below. And that is all I have for you today. I did say that I was going to tell you what was going on with me. So I know I told y'all before that I found out something about myself. And, although it's a sigh of release for me, because knowing that, I'm not crazy, and the way that I am is, I've been trying to figure out why I am the way I am for my whole life, and watching everybody do things that I can't do seamlessly, and just trying to, beating myself up, trying to figure out why I can't do certain things, why I'm not a certain way, this and this and this, thinking I'm crazy. And found out that, it's just how my mind works. Well, in addition to that, I do suffer from depression. So this weekend, I think starting Thursday, I couldn't focus. I could not focus to do any work whatsoever. I would sit in front of my computer and just be off in La La Land somewhere. Like, the computer would sit here and I would sit here all day. I just couldn't focus to get any cases done. And I was really trying, because literally this is my job, but I just couldn't. And then I realized I was going through a depressive episode mixed in with the other stuff that's going on with me. And that literally caused like a system failure, cascade crash in my brain. And I just couldn't do anything. I guess everything rebooted on Monday night, and I stayed up literally all night up until Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. just writing away, getting stuff done that I hadn't done between Thursday and Monday. And so Tuesday came and I was too tired, of course, because I stayed up all night working. And so here we are Wednesday, back on my track. But literally that's what happened. And I felt really guilty that I didn't get your episode out on Monday, because I know y'all want your episode. I just couldn't do anything. I just couldn't. I tried. I couldn't. And I mean, I don't know. I guess if you're not really experienced in it, you don't really understand. Some people are like, oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, if my brain isn't working, I really can't do that. The first thing you have to have in order to pull yourself up by your bootstraps is your brain telling you, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So if the first thing isn't working, you again, like I said, cascade failure. So that's what was going on with me. Apparently I needed a mental health break, and I wasn't listening to myself, and I kept going. So I don't know, at some point in time, I am going to have a week off maybe, but I will have, the new and improved AI Jane. When I'm telling you the new improved, she sounds amazing. I'll have AI Jane do a week, and I'm just going to take a little break. That'll be my week off. I don't know when. It might be soon. It might be in the near future. When I say soon, it might be next week, or it might be in a couple months. I don't know when. But that's what's going to happen. So if you hear AI Jane doing a week, just please give me grace, because that's why. Also, while I was on my hiatus, I did get a message from one of our lambs. Looks like it's a new lamb. So welcome, new lamb. I'll just call you Andy, because I don't know if you want me to tell your name, but welcome. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your correction. Thank you for your respectful correction. So being that this is the way you did correct me in an episode, I did want to read that on air because, like I said, I get my stories from other sources like the news, and they're not always right. So if people who know what's going on, what did happen, reach out to me respectfully, I would love to offer corrections. So this lamb said, quote, just heard your Randy Gay episode from 2021. Again, they put in their relation to everybody here, but I don't know if they want to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to put the relation in there. But they went on to say it was mostly good, but a lot of the later in life facts were wrong. Connie Snow was not a random woman. He was living with her in the forest on the mountain. She was his girlfriend. She was the main one Randy was cheating on Deborah with. He absolutely always had alcohol on him. To make it worse, Deborah was as violent and awful as he was. So that's what Andy wanted to correct. If you haven't heard that episode of Randy Gay, I will put the link to that episode in the show notes below so you could listen to that one. I don't remember it, so I do have to re-listen to it myself, but thank you for that correction. And as you see, I put the correction out. So that is all I have for you for this episode. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being lambs, new and old. And I will see you. Oh, this is the full episode. Sorry. I have to end the way of the full episode. And I know you can hear my cat meowing. This is in the morning. I'm recording this and she's totally trying to wake my daughter up as she does every morning. I don't know how people think cats are not like dogs, but this cat is always by my daughter's side. And when my daughter's not around, she's freaking out. So she wants my daughter awake because I'm awake. So she knows it's awake time. So this is what she does every morning. Scratches on my daughter's door, meows, howling outside her room door, pulling on her room door. Like, oh God, this cat loves my daughters to pieces. Anyways, being that this is the full episode, join me as we end each full episode by reminding you that it's, say it with me now, all love and no murder, y'all. Don't forget to share this episode with everyone you know and everyone you don't. So we're going to go ahead and share this episode as it's talking about best friends. Share this episode with your best friend and let them know that you would never murder them. You would not do that. And also share this episode on a Reddit true crime thread that you're part of. Everyone you know and everyone you don't. See you later. Bye.